So just prior to starting the physical portion, something that I think kind of connects to what Roger has been talking all the way through is that when we talk about the attributes, they are the engine of our performance in achieving specific goal. And I think that in order to better achieve that goal, it suits us to understand what the goal is. So when we talk about the attributes, what we're trying to achieve either in a sparring session or in a fight with an opponent is actually what we're basically trying to do is whack him, right? To hit him. And what does this accomplish? This hitting the other person. We're transferring certain force, right, to them in order to cause like one force trauma or something. So when we talk about technique and clean technique and proper, we are actually talking about the mechanics of delivery in terms of delivering that force into somebody else. And this is why our technique is built the way it is, with certain foundation in the Jezebel stance and footwork and everything that goes with it, right? So I'd like to start this this session with using again the Big Daddy or Big D's, and just to start with a little warm up, you know. So take your Big Daddy and to work on your grip and the attributes of force delivery and power generation. So let's just do a slow ikis to the full range of motion, but make sure to just not to wield the whole thing as something inanimate, but actually focus on the hammer principle of delivery. So it hits and then hits and then hits and then hits. Let's just do a few swings as an ikis strike or an downward 8, and then change the hand, whichever is your primary or secondary hand. Just move it a little bit and do a few upwards figure 8s. Focus on this center line when passing it, with some awareness to the edge orientation. You know, don't make it just waving any whichever other way. Okay. So to start with, I'm not going to be bringing anything revolutionary in terms of new techniques or anything, right? So the first thing to start with, let's work on the interception principles that Roger has been harping on for quite a long now. So our first combo will be an interception strike. So since it is an interception, don't let it go too far. Interception followed by a counter strike. Lutang footwork or the illustration footwork back with then with backstack, and then followed with 2 strikes on the same. So it's a sort of an inclined planchada on the same line, a broken strike and a through strike. Okay, so essentially it will go forward, Lutang, and then forward again, and go back. So try for a couple times. So interception, and then a counter, counter, and attack again. Intercept, counter, counter with the Lutang, and go forward again. Make sure to re-emphasize the return to the initial position, because your ending position is your starting position. And going infinitely, because this starting with a strong position and going back, it enables you to launch a new attack or a defense or whatever it is that you need to do, right? If you've done it a few times, let's do it together. I'll be counting. So let's pay attention to the triangular stance and footwork. Try not to lose your structure and turn into to stand on the same line. So If in Astig, if we are trained, we're going on a double track. We're not one of those monorail trains, right? Okay. So 1, go back, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, do a few more times. I'll just take a look. Okay, so just in your movement, make sure again to reemphasize the point A to point B transfer. Don't make some sort of lazy half-assed attempt at imitating the overall image, but actually find your way of covering the distance, going back, and then front again, and then back again. So see, if I start on this line here, and I go forward and back, and then forward again, see, I have almost a whole yard to cover on my way back to the initial position, right? Okay, let's just switch hands and do the same thing on the other side, right? So again, try a couple times, intercept. So it's going from abierta to cerrada. So it's an inward strike interception, followed by the backhand, backsuck, and then coming from the cerrada side, broken strike and a flow strike and go back. So basically, we start from the central position, but striking an abierta to cerrada strike, follow back, straight down backsuck, and then 2 strikes from cerrada position and going back, right? But a couple more times slowly. Okay. Let's do it counting now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay, let's do just a couple more times. Okay. So this one covers sort of stutter footwork. You go forward and then kind of back and then forward again and then back again in a way that puts certain demands on the structure in order to achieve this fluid transfer in direction, going back and forth. One of the main, I would say, hinged points on which this performance depends is the position of your hips, or better said, your pelvis. And I don't mean their orientation, whether they're kind of turned to the side or straight forward, square towards your opponent. What I mean is the orientation of the pelvis in terms of, I don't know if you can see it from the side, because when people start moving, and I see that in several of you, is that we tend to protrude our butt back. And if your footwork is, your movement is based on the premise of footwork generating the power for your move, springing off the floor, off the ground and back. So the foot is pushing and then the power goes through your knee, then through your hips, and then launching you forward. With the hips, with the pelvis tilted back, you're leaking that power. So what you need to do is tilt the pelvis back forward. It will better project your intent and everything. So instead of trying to move this way, this is more common with ladies than with gentlemen, but still, you will do it, but you will have to compensate by pushing harder. If you just tilt your pelvis a little bit forward, you will see that it makes you move more like a unit. If nothing else, go take a look at boxers. When they move in the ring, you will rarely see them fight like this. They will be kind of more scrunched because it gives a better, more compact unit to move with. Okay, enough of the rant, just try to be aware of it. What we did on one side, let's do the mirror image. So in the previous example, or the combo, we were intercepting with forward strike and then doing the counter. So now let's do it in the opposite quadrant. So we intercept from the, again, from the central position, but with the premise of going from the serrada towards abierta side. So it's intercept, strike, then again, we do the backsack. However, this time, our recounter comes from the forward, broken strike flow, and back. So again, intercept and strike, backsack, broken, and then through. Intercept, strike, backsack, broken, flow, back. Okay, try a couple times. So it is pretty much the footwork pattern is exactly the same as it was in the previous combo. We're just doing everything in the mirror image of the previous one, where we were moving with forehand. Now we're doing it backhand and vice versa, with the exception of backsack, of course, because it comes down on a straight vertical line. So let's do it all together. Okay, so 1, back. Find your stance. Mind the position of your feet and your hips, the pelvis, right? 2, back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. I'd like to reiterate another point that Roger keeps repeating, but hopefully not in vain. Both the first segment of the entire combo and the last one, we're talking about 2 strikes delivered, but those are 2 beats on a single count, which means that if I look at the footwork from the moment when I lift my front foot off the floor to the moment when it touches the floor back, both strikes are done already. So it goes like half and one, if you want to take a look at it that way. So again, strike, but the point, so foot goes lift, step, and we go strike. So it moves both forward and off the ground. Okay, let's do it on the other side, which is to say with the other hand. All right, again, try the new combo, intercept and strike, backsuck, broken and through to offensive strikes. So intercept, doing the short but crisp backhand, followed by the short and crisp forehand. Both are broken strikes. Keep it compact. So in order to keep it crisp and compact, don't go outside your limit, because essentially, if the strike is coming at me here, it's no use trying to intercept it all the way there, right? That will be working too hard and missing the point anyway. So again, intercept, counter, stop the potential recounter, and then seal the deal. And again, be mindful of coming back on the ready position. Okay, so let's do it. My numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's check the position of your feet. Do you still have a triangle as your supporting structure? How about your hips? And let's keep on counting. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, keep doing it. Make sure to kind of really emphasize the back going portion of that lutang. Don't just pull it back a little, because you might be hit on the knee. Anyways, just don't worry, go back, and it will, if you do it, yes, it will load your other leg and then make it easier to propel yourself forward. So yeah, don't hold. Mark, my man, Milinkovic, be mindful, Mark, be mindful of where would those attacks come from. I see you waving all the way above above your head. Okay, maybe you're fighting Kong or Godzilla or someone, but try to keep it in the box. The box being the top of your head and the lever of hips. Okay.
Thank you.
Nice.
Sorry.
No. Okay, you're welcome. Okay. Craig, good job. Just after that final strike, try to make this redondo-ish kind of movement a little bit tighter. Don't let it move all the way around. You go fine, do everything fine, but then you kind of waving it a little bit too much on the final. Okay, nice. All right. So the next one, we'll go into the redondo-ish territory. In this first couple of combos, we moved offensively immediately. So we kind of went with the idea of attack being the best defense. Sometimes, however, yes, you will be late in reaction, perception, whatever is the cause of you being late in reacting to your opponent's initiative. So in this one, we will start with the Lutan, or the illustration of footwork. But again, we will have 2 beats on the single count. This one portion of footwork will have 2 hand actions. The first one, which is go horizontal strike, but from the central position. The important point here being is without loading first. So we will not be going like preparation and then straight from the central position, kind of almost in boxing. Let me come close to it. You start with your fist more or less vertical, and then you launch into a horizontal structure. So the same thing here. With your stick, you'll go offensively into horizontal position, right? So we go, as we move back, go from the serrada horizontal into the backstack. Now, coming back, we won't just restart and then, but go immediately into the counteroffensive. So from this first, we will put 2 decadena moves. Decadena, and then to cover my retreat, I'll do the stab as I move back. From the top, now I'm counting footwork, right? 1, 2, and then 3. However, there are 5 strikes with a stick. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So yeah, if there are any musicians among you, it would be sort of a polyrhythmic thinking, putting a 5 count over the 3 count. So let's just try it a little bit to get comfortable with the idea. So defense, offense, and then covering your retreat.
Sorry, Draga, can I quick question?
Yes.
Is the number 1 position, is it a sombrada? Is that what it is? Sorry, I missed that.
Well, you could call it sombrada or payong, but again, it is not a block as such. It is still a forward, an offensive action. You're kind of going, you're intercepting your opponent's strike, only moving back.
Okay.
Because, if you have somebody coming in with a real powerful cave-in kind of strike, just putting this up isn't going to help you.
Okay.
It will, come through and go. So you have to actually intercept that movement.
Got it.
Think of it like a boxer jabbing on the way back.
Yeah.
So they're not throwing out some sort of defense. They're jabbing, and so it's the same thing here and the stab back with the same idea.
Got it.
So you're
Okay.
you're trying to project force, to deliver force.
Kind of like
Okay.
attack the attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
So, okay, again, we will have this followed with backsack, and then the cadena, and the spab on the way back. Okay, so let's do it by numbers then, right? Okay, 1. Again, be mindful of the point A to point B. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Okay. By the way, I don't know if anybody was wondering why counting to 12. You know, but it has nothing to do with any potential esoteric meaning, like whatever the zodiacs or number of months or those separators. It's simply that most people are based in their thinking on tens. So they're doing the sets of 10 reps. So if you do all your sets by 12 reps, it means you're doing 20% more work than they are. So, you know, being that much more, that much better trained, hopefully, right? Okay, let's go to your other hand. Mostly people will move from right to left, but I know that Tom, as a matter of fact, will go from left to right. You know, he has this curveball lefty orientation. Okay. So again, it was from the central position, we were doing a serrada, interception, followed with backsack, right? And then the cadenas, and cover your retreat with stab. Make sure to still, regardless of the fact that you're moving back, that your intent with your stab is actually going into your opponent. If I were, I don't know if you can see this, but essentially I would be, if I went against an immovable object, I'd be pushing myself off that object, not kind of fading out, but actually, if you see the edge here, I'd be going forward with my weapon while still going back with my footwork. Okay, let's try it then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, my bad here. 10, 11, 12. In order to keep, again, these changes from going back and then forward and then back again, to keep them as efficient and effective as possible, make sure to prevent your decadena movement from going too far. Keep the movement smaller, basically shooting from your wrist and your elbow to generate power, because your hand has no business going behind your back. This would be overkill. So keep the cadena in front of you the whole time. Just stay in front with your arm, because this is what launches all your techniques, right? Okay. And again, as the Alice goes behind the mirror, so should we, right? So where we have this horizontal serrato movement followed by backsack, now we have the abierto movement followed by backsack. And now again, instead of the cadena, from this initial, we go into redondo. And then for the stab. You will notice that this time the stab will be also coming a little bit from the inside, maybe from the opposite hip. You don't have to make it go all the way around. So stay tight, right? Tight, and stab while going back. So horizontal and backsack, redondo, and a stab. With the lutang too, and then while moving forward, it's a long, really long propelling step. 2, and then again to end the deal on the last one. Okay, let's do the counting. 1, 2. We'll do a few initial ones a little slower. 3. 4. Let's try to pick up the pace a little bit. Okay. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Do a couple more for me, please. Let me take a look. Good job. Jonathan, if you can hear me, see, make sure to keep the regular rail mode of your train. You're going monorail. You know, after the lutang, you're putting both your feet on the same line, and that really slows you down, going both back and forth. Not to mention the moving sideways later or something. Okay, let's just do the same thing with the other arm, okay? Again, first, a couple warm-up reps. The same thing applies to our redondos here. Keep them short and sweet, instead of, you know, it's not a windmill movement by any means. Horizontal interception followed immediately, kind of flowing almost as a single move into backsack, redondos, and then retreat with stab. Okay, let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now stop and take a look at your position. How about your feet? How about your guard? Is it in the center or is it offline? Are you recoiling? How about the pelvis that we were talking about? Okay, so in order to be able and better integrate all the instruction, you have to, at some points, to stop and then go through your checkpoints to see if it's all in place, right? Okay, let's move on. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, couple more, please, gentlemen. Okay, new mark, not Milinkovic, but the new mark. As much as Lutang means floating, I don't know if you can see me sideways. Let's try this way. Just waving it back and forth, especially with your support leg almost extended, it doesn't load you enough for the aggressive entry afterwards. If you remember, after this, we really try to go deeper into the space of our opponent, which is why we need a step on retreating back. So besides kicking your cat around the house, it will give you more power on the counter after the initial defense. Okay.
Okay.
Push off instead of letting it float.
Yes.
Is that right? Push off instead of letting it float.
So yeah, because with the backsack, you need to put really power into this backsack. So put it down, and it will then do more spring on your way back. Kind of, if you see the sprinters starting the race, you know, well, in their blocks, they're not just like leaning on one leg like this. They're with both. So they're first pushing off the back one, and then so applying the sports science about the power generation, because science is, well, it's both universal and neutral towards the stylistic differences and the lineage and the history of our chosen styles. So if you try to apply the scientific findings in the athletics and sports training, you can improve your martial stuff being more effective and efficient. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of efficiency, obviously when Guru Roger was talking about the importance of this work on the attributes and the solo training in general, I was
economy of motion
pondering the issue of the importance of solo training versus the importance of training with partners. And you know, I will gladly stand corrected if somebody comes with a better explanation. But I have strong suspicion about the old, you know, grandmasters of the yesteryear, the old Manons. I find it hard to believe that they had training partners on disposal every day or even 3 or 4 times a week. So obviously they would use any opportunity to play with other practitioners. But my belief is that actually it was the fusion of the solo work on attributes and the mental attitude the sheer attitude that they had, because, you know, back then, obviously, the whole fighting thing was actually about fighting. Not so much about posturing and lineage and tradition, but rather about survival. So, you know, which kept it real. So this is something that we should also keep in mind when doing our solo work. Master Ray is with us. I think in one of his articles or books, he had something that only mindful repetition actually builds better ways, because otherwise it becomes calisthenics. You know, they said that repetition is the mother of all skill, but it has to be deliberate, mindful repetition. Even if you go and read the scientific findings about, you know, the 10,000 hours to become a master at any chosen endeavor and that kind of thing, they keep talking about the deliberate practice. Obviously, one of the ways to make it more deliberate and therefore more efficient in forging the desired results is to have a really, really strong mental imagery when doing your training. However, let's face it, after 10 or 15 minutes, when you start huffing and puffing, it can be difficult to you know, keep sharp images and do that kind of work. So one of the ways that I find really helps in that regard is to use verbal cues to keep the focus on the work. So what would it mean? So in the previous combination, we had like what we call the horizontal strike, and then a vertical strike, and then 2 circle strikes, and then a stab. But if you change the focus, so sometimes, you know, I was repeating, keep it tight, keep it in the box. But if you keep saying yourself, what is it that you're hitting? Hand, 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 head, chest. So if you keep talking, I mean, talking it out loud is even better than keeping it internal about the actual targets that you're hitting. It really helps you stay focused on the assignment, on the task. Like in the first one, we have, say, head, hand, head, hand, right? And then, for example, head, collarbone. So you go hand, head, head, collarbone, collarbone, whatever. You know, kind of choose your formula, your mantra at the beginning of the combo, and then work through it, right? So, well, let's try it with the next one. And the next one, let's keep the same beginning, like with the previous, only this time going really intercepting on offense. So if you remember that the first one was horizontal serrada, followed by backside. Only this time, we will not be doing it with low time, but actually going forward, all right? And let's also introduce another piece of footwork and keep this one really, really offensive. So we shuffle forward, again, 2 counts or 2 beats on the single count. 1, we had 2. Now, there's something that Roger calls the Astig footwork, which means stepping forward with the back leg. So really aggressively entering our opponent's space. So after these first 2, we have a stab. And then on the way back, let's do, well, whatever. You know, after that stab, let's go all the way back to our first combo. And on the way back, let's do this broken and flowing strike. So horizontal with backsuck, stab, and then do 2 strikes on the same plane. However, let's find some sort of verbal cue formula and go hand, head, chest, temple, temple, head, head. Let's keep it simple, right? So hand, head, chest, head, head. You can go slowly. You strike the hand attacking you, and then go through it and strike the head. Stab the chest, and on your way back, hit the head twice more. Whatever, at the same place, right? So let's do it. Kind of try it slowly. You can turn off your mics and in order to verbalize the cues out loud. So you would be going like hand, head, chest, head, head. Hand, head, chest, head, head. For those of you who attended Guru Tom Peña's session last week, you will notice that this Astig footwork has a lot in common mechanically with the boxing footwork with the slip that he was doing the female triangle, but with a slip, if you remember, and this switch in between. The important thing is here that, see, Astig footwork by nature combines two pieces of anatomy on the opposite sides of the body. So you have, in this case, your left leg moving forward along with the right arm. And this will help you with everything else, because if you were doing it at the same time, it would naturally kind of extend you, which requires additional time to reinstate the posture prior to moving back. When you move to opposite sides, it's easier to plunge back, right? So let's try it now. Let's go. Hand, head, chest, head, head. Be mindful of the final position, which is against the initial position, right? Hand, head, chest, head, head. I'll be doing counting now with a little bit more time between the counts, so you can go through the whole mantra on your own, right? So 1. Hopefully now you will see the whole thing. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 9. 10. 11. 12. Okay. If you catch yourself losing it, flailing too much, go back to this verbal cue stuff, and it will keep you tighter and everything. Okay, let's just change hands. Let's go to the other hand. And without too much ranting on my side, just try it a couple times. Okay, let's try counting and then wrap it up. 1. 2. 3. 5. And head, chest, head, head. 6. Hand, head, chest, head, head. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 'Milinkovic, make the final one a flow strike. Not both are broken. So after the stab, it's broken and then flow strike. Okay, and 12. Okay, so naturally, we would do the same thing on the mirror image side, right? But instead of going through the entire stuff, so, you know, this time we will be starting from the abierta position and then maybe stabbing on the under one and then doing the backhand. But instead of doing that, let me just give you an additional idea for your own personal practice. And then I will hand the class over to Guru Roger. What is the most challenging physical, the most challenging portion of this whole thing is actually coming back after the Astig footwork. I noticed that among several of you, and that's my own personal experience too. So there are two ways, I mean, a few ways to overcome it. The first is to work on it and develop your attributes, right? If you keep your pelvis properly directed, it will help it. Another one is that to do a little tweak on the footwork. So after the deep step in, instead of pushing off that single leg all the way back, you can actually do the switch and replace your front foot with your dominant one, and then just replace it and shuffle back. So the same thing would look up and then switch. The nice thing about switch is that you can angle it any which way you like to. For example, if I started from this point and this, once I switch, I can do it on an angle, so I gain some space sideways. Or if you are so inclined, or if the situation dictates that way, you can even change the orientation 90 degrees, so you have flanked your opponent effectively. If you have someone like in front of you, right, and you work towards them, once you finish this, you'll be flanking them regarding, so then you will have their side. Okay. So hopefully you found my presentation even a tiny little bit useful. And I thank you for your attention and for the effort you have put in into going through everything I had to show.